Welcome back to the last part in our new player walkthrough. I'm Automaton 2000 from BigBook.app.
And I'm Danjivin from CabTools.app.
We're going to mix things up in this last section and give you a series of 360 no-scope advice quick hits. I'm probably going to upload some YouTube thumbnail of my O-face for this sweet tips and tricks guide. This is by no means an exhaustive list, and you may have heard a few of these if you listened to our previous episodes, but we hope to give you a leg up in a few areas if you're just starting out. So let's hit on Shuttles first off, because something we debated included in the events section, because it plays out like a galaxy or a skirmish grind and it has great synergy with them, that being tanked shuttles. And there's a link to a text guide with a video walkthrough in the description of this video that covers all the details, but the too long didn't read is that if you keep your shuttles at the baseline difficulty, 30 seconds, 2 minutes, etc., that they were when you first started the game, when an event ends and awards a winning faction buff, a special buff, you're able to farm shuttles instantly. You can turn your merits into gold trainers, faction items, components, and chronotons. The rate of chronoton farming is generally between 500 and 1,000 per hour, so very lucrative. In fact, probably the most rewarding sort of burst farming you can do in the game, even more so than skirmishes. It also completely eliminates the trainer crunch that rosters often struggle with early on.
So we mentioned in the last cast about dirty shuttles. When the phase changes from hybrid events, from the faction to the galaxy portion, you can leave some of your incomplete open shuttle missions open and keep drawing VP off of them pretty much the entire rest of the day into phase 2. But what happens if your phone is, stops the process and now you've lost your bonus crew indicator? The data core is a website that we'll get into a little bit later. But if you log in and upload your profile, you'll be able to still see those bonuses. You may lose your crew share that your squad leader gave to you, but at least you'll still be able to see what the best crew to throw on those missions is.
Dan pulling a Pulaski and calling it data core instead of data core, but I digress. Wrapping up with shuttles, there's a difficulty cap on shuttles. You may notice in daily or event shuttles that after you've succeeded several different shuttle missions, the success rates start to normalize around 66%. But once your crew becomes strong enough, you'll reach a point where the difficulty stops increasing and you can actually reach a 99% success rate, both for daily and event shuttles. Now, the daily shuttle difficulty does cap out about 25% higher than event shuttles, so you may not hit that daily cap without fused legendary crew. Dan, kick us off. Let's move on to some time portal goodies.
Yeah, so the time portal is most players' first introduction to getting new crew, but soon as you are able to participate in events, you're going to find that you're going to get much stronger crew in the form of your event purples that you get 3 or 4 stars on. And if you are also participating in the mega events, you're going to get extra stars on those gold crew. Those are going to be the best crew in your roster. And so the question remains, what happens with all those extra packs that you're receiving? You're going to get premium packs. Also, sometimes there are specialty packs that they provide you with. Those are going to give you usually single copies of a purple crew or a gold crew. Those are going to start to take up your roster space very quickly. They're not going to fly on your voyages so long as you have enough good, strong, fully fused purple and gold crew. And so the recommendation that I'd make typically is once you've got your starter crew and you're actually participating in all the game content, start to leave some of those packs unopened so that your roster doesn't swell and you don't run into those issues where you're forced to airlock perfectly good crew that you just don't have room for. Those random draws that you get from the very large portal right now may wind up sitting in your roster for even years.
Now, one thing I wish I'd realized early on is you actually have to kind of evaluate crew differently where they come from. So if you get an event purple 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 4 copies, or maybe an endurance objective event 4 out of 5 gold copies, then kind of all the stats are in play. They're all irrelevant, Voyage, etc. But if you're looking at the first star on a Behold, keep in mind the Behold portal is huge. So if you get a car that's really good on Voyages and you want to grab that first star, it may be months, it may be years before you get more stars on him to finish him. So really, if you're getting a single copy at a time, look for more long-term plays like traits and collections, or if they're a good Gauntlet crew and you can get that with the first star, that's fine. Also in the time portal, if you're looking to spend honor, and that's something that we did cover in the first video of this series, so go back and listen if you're interested there. Keep an eye out for honor sales. Now the honor hall has legendary crew that you can buy at your discretion, or you can buy begolds or citations. Now the frequency of sales have shifted over the years, but as of this recording right now, they're about quarterly sales, 4 times a year. And so instead of paying 50,000 honor for a gold citation, you're looking at only 40,000 for the same citation plus a behold of all gold crew. Dan, we're kind of bearing the lead here, but fleets are enormously important for new players. So talk them through that a little bit.
Yeah, all that talk about honor, how are you going to get the honor? One of the biggest sources a new player is going to see of honor is just participating in an active fleet. Where do you find them, though? So the in-game search for fleets is not great. So we recommend maybe checking some of the social media, Reddit, Discord, even the forums are actually pretty good places to find other players. One of the big reasons to go with a fleet that goes to the extra step of advertising on those extra channels, it really means that they're invested in finding just any sort of active player rather than just passively letting their fleet kind of sit around. You'll be able to, though, once you get in game, actually preview the fleet. So maybe you found a good ad and you want to jump into that fleet, and now you're looking around and you see, well, maybe some of these players haven't logged in for weeks or even months. The star base was maxed. You had a level 134 star base, so you're getting all the benefits from that. But maybe they haven't completed all their daily missions, and that means you're not getting all the bonuses, all those honor and chronotons that you're really entitled to from a fully functioning fleet. So I recommend not giving too much allegiance to maybe the first couple of fleets that you join. Be on the lookout and find a fleet that has the level activity that matches you, and I think that you'll be rewarded. Really, for the new player, the bottom line is that a really active fleet can be the largest free instant buff to your gameplay, and also your knowledge. They'll be willing to share if they're on Discord. It's a great way to just ask and receive.
With the advent of fleet boss battles, they really are more important than ever. You get a lot of credits and merits from churning through those bosses as well. Now, a word about player resources. There are a lot of them out there. I'm just going to throw a few of the websites at you, and you can check them out for yourself. First up, the granddaddy of them all, sttwiki.org. A great catch-all website. They have information about the different game systems, about the crew, event storylines, and all that good stuff. Next up, datacore.app. It sort of started out as a crew evaluation website, but they've really focused more on player tools. So the Voyage calculator is very useful. There's event and faction pages that are worthwhile. A word of warning, not all the tools are really should be your Bible. The citation optimizer and the Hall of Fame really are kind of, I would say, very inaccurate in the advice they give. So double check with your fleet and see that the advice you're getting is solid. Speaking of solid advice, going to plug my own stuff here, bigbook.app and Dan's cabtools.app. Those are more pure crew evaluation websites, but they do have some other features. Cabtools has a great fleet boss battle trait helper in addition to a faction event helper, and the Big Book has daily Gauntlet advice, an event leaderboard, and a big repository for ship stats and information. And the last one on this list, the DNA checklist, the Do Not Airlock checklist. This is on WRG's forums in the Ready Room, and that's focused more on the traits you need to unlock galaxy map nodes, and kind of helps tell you when it's time to freeze crew that you may have outgrown.
Yeah, shout out to Commander Worf for keeping that up, the longest running player resource for the game. So a couple words on the reset times. Important to know when they are. It's when your tickets refresh. A bunch of other things happen. Most of the daily things happen. Let's just say your Eastern time in the U.S. You would see most of your tickets refresh for Cadet, for Arena. Your scans. You'll notice that your Starbase donation and rewards. Objective events begin. A few other small things. Those all happen overnight for us. So that would be around 1 a.m. currently. One other thing to note that changes over at 1 a.m. is the quantum cost. If you are one of the players that has extra dill and you like to accelerate your quantum drops each day, you can buy some additional, and that cost will inflate as you continue to buy it. But the initial it resets back to the initial cost at 1 o'clock in the morning. A few other times of the day to note. So at noon is when typically we're going to see our events start, and sometimes new packs will drop. Keep an eye on the store around noon each day. And then at 1 in the afternoon for Eastern Time players, a few of the things reset. We've got Dabo, the faction stores. So if you're on the hunt for Mirror Tuvok, keep an eye there. But also just for those random, really small, silly little things that you are missing for your builds that require faction items. If you are prone to playing fleet boss battles, you'll want to know that your unfreeze cost and merits from the cryo chamber resets at 1 o'clock. And one last note is that the arena leaderboard has a strange reset time. I think it's close to 2 in the morning when it locks everybody out of play and it calculates and hands out the prizes.
So again, those times are Eastern U.S. If you're mainland Europe, most of you are plus 6 hours from there. Okay, let's shift over to the Gauntlet. Very handy trick I learned partway through playing is that the 4-hour fatigue reset timer in Gauntlet actually starts when you perform almost any action in game. So if you want to have an extra round to utilize right before Gauntlet ends or before you go to bed if you're in Europe, do a Gauntlet match, a little over 4 hours before you're set to end. You can then click on that crew and check their fatigue timer. And right before that 4-hour timer ticks over, run all the rest of your rounds. Then when the timer resets, you have 5 fresh crew ready to go right before the end of the Gauntlet. So you're essentially doubling your chances at collecting points right before the end, and that will give you a few more ranks at the end of Gauntlet.
Yep, maybe a few more of those loot crates. I'm still waiting to get my most recent legendary to drop. It hasn't happened for me. I'm not one of the players who spends dilithium to refresh my crew and get extra chances, and I don't think it's widely considered to be a good use of dilithium. Getting those really long streaks in Gauntlet does get you the bigger loot crates, but I haven't really noticed a dramatic increase among all of the the Gauntlet legendary crew that I've received. Most of them I've received just from 3 streaks, from the shortest possible ones, and just getting them frequently. And really just making sure that I've got my reset times down in Gauntlet so I can get as many of those chances to open just the simplest little crate as possible. Just grinding and doing it every day is going to get you those legendary drops more frequently than even finishing number 1. It may take you months, but you'll get there eventually.
All right, while Dan waits for Evolved Janeway to drop from his Gauntlet, let's move over to Voyages. Voyage skills are checked 35% of the time for the gold featured skill, 25% of the time for the silver secondary, and then 10% for the rest. Now, Voyage calculators do take a lot of the work out of that for you, but if you want to seat your Voyages manually, a quick rule of thumb there is try to put between 2,000 and 2,500 points in both of the featured skills for about every 2 hours your voyage is aiming to last. So if you're looking to reach 4 hours, maybe go for between 4,000 and 5,000 if you can. At 8 hours, closer to 8,000 to 10,000. There are also Voyage exclusive crew that drop only from dilemmas. Now, the best way to acquire them is to run a long voyage, using all of your Voyage revival tokens and checking the right dilemma answers along the way. But if you're a scatterbrain like me and you keep forgetting your voyages in between dilemmas and they crash, get in the habit of recalling them right after a dilemma. Not only is it mathematically the most efficient way to voyage because the spike in rewards at a dilemma makes it the optimal point to recall both for chronotons and honor, but you can also save your revival tokens for those exclusive super rares instead. Now, a shout out to our Android players. Dan, why don't you talk us through the Offerwall and the source of free dilithium for a lot of low spending players?
Yeah, if you're fortunate to be playing on Android, then you're ready to go. All you got to do is click the little plus sign next to your dilithium in the top right of pretty much every screen in the game, and it'll bring you to a purchase screen where one of the options is a tantalizing one that says free dilithium. I don't know if I would call it free completely. It does cost quite a bit of your time for some of the offers, but you will see the offer wall. And that is a very long list of a number of other apps. If you've played any freemium game, you're familiar with something like this. You'll see a number of similar types of games. Frequently, we'll see slot machine games and your generic fantasy player versus player, build your castle game. over the course of time, you're going to need some dilithium for your shuttle bays, for the other things that we mentioned in our other pods. And this is a great way for free to play players, especially for VIP 0 players who don't want to increase that VIP number, to get a good influx of dilithium. Even better than just the normal offer wall, you'll see some multiplier events that happen usually around holidays. I see about twice a year they will increase the dilithium drops to 4 times.
I believe 4th of July and Christmas are usually those 4 times rewards.
Hmm. And they also have some other smaller holidays where they celebrate with 2 times events as well. So one of my big tips is pick a game that you like, because you may be stuck with it for a while, especially the ones that have the huge payouts. And they'll say, famously, they'll say, just complete a quick action to earn this dilithium. And unfortunately for me, when I downloaded, I think it was Evany, and I wanted to get that sweet 100,000 dilithium drop, that quick action wound up being about 2 months of hard grinding and learning a game that I really didn't want to play. However, I got the drop, and now I've been milking that for months and months and months now. Also, one final note I'll make is that if it is a game that's going to take you a while to complete, uh, make sure that you, after you've activated, you keep an eye on the actual offer wall itself. You can go back in and check your progress, but also see how much time you have left to complete the offer. Most offer wall games give you up to 60 days to meet your goal, and some of the ones even have now, it's a new addition I've seen within the past year. They'll let you complete lower tiers to get smaller drops.
Now, before you run off to play 300 levels of Candy Crush, we have a few more topics to cover. Crew retrieval is something that we touched on in previous episodes, but the very basic rule of thumb is, with very few exceptions, it's not worth retrieving any crew lower in rarity than legendary. The costs simply are not balanced to be competitive with the scaling, with a super rare costing almost as much quantum as a legendary. So, with those lower rarity crew dropping more commonly from all sources, including Voyages, which free-to-play players will see all the time, go ahead and stick with just legendary crew. Moving over to ships, we have a couple tips for you. Let's start out with the arena, Dan.
Yeah, the arena is a mystery. It's really not documented in the game. A lot of times when I'm working my way up the arena ladder, I'm going to see ships that have crew on them that have triggered activations of their ship ability, and their ship doesn't happen to have any way to activate that. So those crew are essentially dead apart from just their attack or their defense boosts. When you have a ship that generates a trigger, most commonly you'll see position, boarding, cloak. Make sure that not only your ship has it, but also that you activate that ship ability first. Activate your cloak. And then if you have a crew that also matches that trigger, then second, you can tap your crew and then get the extra bonus from their ship ability. One special note about that, cloak is a one-time use. Once you do anything, activating another crew ability after you've activated your cloak, your ship's going to drop out of cloak, just like the movies, folks. And unfortunately, you will have used up that cloak entirely by activating your cloak trigger crew. So you can't double dip on any of those really big. You'll see some really big 500% hammer bonuses, but you can only get one of them.
I can already see Kirk clenching his fist and yelling, "Fire!" Now, if you want to help him out, the best way to do that is a big attack boost. That's really more important than accuracy or evasion early on, and that's the one thing you want to focus on staffing your ship with. Now, attack boosts also scale with fusion level, so it's sometimes a 3-star rare crew might be better than a 2-star uncommon and so forth. Look for a high attack, long duration crew, and ride your way to victory.
So final cleanup notes about the arena. So at the end of the month, there's a little bit of a grace period where you're going to have, I think the last 2 to 3 days, you're going to have arena schematics drop that you may not need anymore. You may have maxed whatever the ship is by the end of that month, or it may just be for a ship you already got for free. Sometimes they'll throw in ships that drop from Voyages and from the Dabo wheel. So at those last 3 days of the month, you're able to actually leave those mails in your inbox containing schematics. When the month changes over to whatever the next schematic's going to be, whatever's in your inbox also changes over. So you can actually get a head start on building that brand new ship. Also, one more quick note about the leaderboard calculation time. So I touched on that. It happens around 2 a.m. Eastern time for the US players. And if you can spend your tickets as close to that downtime as possible, you may wind up being able to inflate your rank before people have a chance to knock you down, and you'll just get more schematics when those mails do drop into your inbox.
Now, legendary ships are a very important part of the equation, even more so than getting the right crew a lot of the time, but it takes a very long time to level up your legendary ships. Most of them require about 7,000 schematics, and packs and arena rewards only drop 100 or 2 at a time. So your two easiest avenues for gold ship schematics are the Captain's Bridge rewards from Fleet Boss Battles, which rewards you copies of the Constellation, and the Dabo Wheel. Now you have a 15 to 20% chance to hit the legendary schematics, those 2 copies on the Dabo Wheel. So spin once a day for credits, or if you'd like a second time with an ad warp, and you should obtain your first legendary ship within a week or 2. And even the first level of any legendary ship is enough to 3-star almost all the ship battles on the galaxy map. And that is going to be your best way to farm high rarity components early on. Now, Dan, as a tie-in, talk to the folks about the most economical way to farm those super rare purple components early on.
Well, that would be the ad warp, and it's not just for Android owners. So I mentioned earlier the Offerwall, but ad warp is another one of those things that notoriously iOS, PC players, Steam players, and web client players just don't have access to. Ad warp, though, may be accessible to you, though, if you're able to download various Android emulation tools. So I know that there are some native ones for PC. A common one that I've seen used is BlueStacks, but also macOS has its own. You can research those at your convenience. And I'm not sure if an iPhone is going to be able to do that unless you go through some really particular hoops. But yeah, get on your desktop. And when you're there, go ahead and farm some rare components. Farm those purple components for free. If you are even an early player who's unlocked a 5-star ship at the first couple of levels, you're going to be able to run the entire galaxy map of all those really high difficulty ship missions. And you're going to have access to those highest cost 24 cron missions. When you have the ad warp available to you, those become free. And they become free every 30 minutes. So you're able to really stock up on some of the most commonly used components, like those 4-star casings that are going to stop you cold from finishing the last level of your purple and gold crew. There are a bunch of different reset times for the various ad warps in the game. It's not just for missions. There's also an ad double, which happens once an hour. And you also have your cadet warp, which is separate from just your normal mission ad warp. That one happens every 4 hours. The final ad that you get to watch is going to be on your Dabo wheel. So every 24 hours, you're going to get a free spin at the Dabo wheel. Make sure that you have bought your quote free one for just the 5,000 credits first. And then the first lithium spin you'll be able to get for free. So you get to double up each day. Another big way to really use these ad warps to your advantage is completing your dailies for free. If you run your 10 space missions and then you have ad warped them all, you spent 0 crons, and now along with your arena tickets, you've completed 100% of your space mission requirements for the dailies. You can do the same thing with away team. And one final note is that the galaxy map does have a whole lot of one-time drop rare rewards, particularly if you got to episode 10. You can get a copy of a legendary Quinn. There's a bunch of nice 5-star ship schematics, I think Pike's Enterprise, and Dilithium. Honor everything that you really want as a growing player. You can get twice as much if you use that ad double once an hour as you're completing those missions.
Now, before we go off and cash our check from Timeline's ad provider, one last topic to cover: crew leveling and management, arguably where you're going to be spending a lot of your time day to day. Replicator costs, credit costs, which can really sink early players, they roughly triple for each rarity increase, meaning replicating a gold item costs about the same as 8 blue items or 28 green items. So if you're in a big credit crunch and you're looking to save some, and this is the number one credit sinkhole that players fall into, go ahead, dig down a few levels and just replicate the basic or uncommon faction items that you might be missing, even if it takes you an extra day or two because of a limit on your number of daily replications.
Yeah, you should. If you're in an active fleet that's got the entire starbase unlocked, you should have up to 5 replications without, with still being VIP 0. So that's quite a few. So get in those good fleets. The other thing is you'll actually need to have a crew open that requires either the exact item you want to replicate or whose build has a piece of equipment where one of those items is a component. That can actually be used to your advantage to kind of pre-farm. So one of the equipment that I like to pre-farm is 2-star science equipment, science experiment. And so that's the little jars, right? So that's the one that I like to leave at least one of my gold crew at level 1 that I don't plan to use for anything. I'll have them sit there, and I found a piece of equipment that requires that. And each day, if I haven't used my replications for anything else, I can just drill down into them, replicate 5 of those, and be done. And now I've got them the next time I need them for some ridiculous Spock or whatever that requires too many of them. You can also leave those slots open. And sometimes when you're playing in Dabo or Gauntlet, you may randomly receive some equipment or component rewards. Those will actually oftentimes match those open slots that you have on the crew that you've left unleveled in your roster. Do it often. Really try to stick to those faction only or away only items, because if you're an ad warper, or especially if you're a skirmisher, you're really going to be replicating a ton of the items that drop from space missions. So I would really stick to the ones that you cannot get from those space missions.
Now, there's a long-standing bug where if you manually build an item from 2 identical lower rarity items, meaning you don't use the quick build, you go through the item UI and build that one level at a time, it often only uses one of those 2 identical items. Now, don't worry, WRG isn't listening to this. You won't be banned for trying to stretch your food dollar, but it can help you save a lot of items and chronotons if you do that consistently.
So what about those crew that just have no use? Few collections, really expensive builds, no good items. Just airlock them. Just get rid of them. It's the easy button. If it's going to be the guy that you never use, or this really cool gold that just dropped that you really want to level up, I think the choice is pretty easy. But there's a real fear of missing out, and I see some players that may be tempted to buy extra crew slots just to keep some of the worst crew in the game, and it really isn't necessary. They'll come back. That's the most important thing to remember, especially about those purples, is as you get longer and longer voyages, you're going to see them drop like rain. You'll get multiple purples every day from voyages, from the premium packs you earn from participating in events. So really, don't be afraid to go ahead and just let them go. They'll come back to you. When you cite or you retrieve, and you're looking at your collection tiers, check the current one, the current event that you're currently participating in, and just make sure that you're actually not going to already hit the tier by the crew that you get for free. Same goes with the campaign. Over the course of the month, you're going to get a free purple fully fused, and that may be the one to put you over the top. So, before you drop that free purple site you got from a objective event, just look ahead a little bit and see what's coming to you.
Okay, our one last little piece of advice as I try to finish in under a half an hour, or it's free. Now, this one's sadly born out of our repeated forgetfulness. Check the threshold rewards table and events before leveling the threshold crew. Now, it happens to all of us. We fully equip the crew, we get ready to do some galaxy crafting, and suddenly we see their gold uniform drop, and we become the object of laughter and derision in fleet chat. Get used to it, it's a rite of passage. Well, that wraps up the last part to our new player walkthrough. Go ye therefore unto your fleets and learn from other experienced players. And most importantly, enjoy yourself in Star Trek Timelines. If you have any questions, stop by our Discord server at the link in the description of this video, and thanks for listening.